it's a pleasure for us to be a part of this grant. I would like to read the jury statement that we've drafted. We would like to begin by thanking the Sher-Gil Sundaram Arts Foundation for this generous grant to not only support artists, but instigate much needed debates and opportunities to push art processes forward. We would like to also congratulate the applicants for their thoughtfully formulated artistic project proposals. Their propositions served as a poetic lens on many critical issues from all over India, from investigating indigenous and gendered practices to responding to ecological disasters and even political issues. Most importantly, the reach of this grant was commendable. We received grants not just from the metropolitan centers, but also from different regions of the country, especially the Northeast and South India. Artists responded to the urgent calls of their communities and even formulated ideas that were an answer to those various plights. Saying this, the key point we looked for in the awarded artwork was those that went beyond questioning and the documentary. The awarded work provided poetic answers and proposed possible futures. It also did not forsake a deepened sense of aesthetic justice, care, and an urgency to give back. For all the mentioned above is a testament that this grant becomes a vehicle to reimagine the social potential of art in present-day India while making it accessible intellectually and in practical means, all the while creating a lasting impact on history. And with no further ado, we would like to announce that the winning grant was by Anga Art Collective for their project entitled Granary. It is a beautifully conceived idea that manifests on vitality and imagines creating an in-situ installation that serves as a flexible library complex inspired by indigenous architectural elements of the Baral to take place in Assam. In the words of my fellow juror, Suresh Bivi, the proposal stood out for its collective, inclusive, sustainable, and impactful practice. It has deeply held, clearly articulated notions of belonging to the world of rural ecosystems, cultures, and ephemeral natures. Also, the project very sensitively and intelligently framed thoughtful concerns for human, animal, and natural systems. Anga's practice is long in its duration, collective in terms of its operations and outreach. It is institutional, pedagogically expansive, and sustainable for future generations. Natasha Jinwala, our fellow juror, also added that from the immense range of artistic proposals made for the SSAF Installation Grant 2022, many of which took up daring and collaborative forms, Anga Art Collective's approach is remarkable for the way it encompasses the decentralized modes of expression, delving in knowledge building, vernacular architecture, and an eco-political confluence. Their focus anchors how agrarian practices, pedagogic resources, and living amidst non-human agents converge to shape aesthetic processes. It also generates a material provocation toward the role of installation art itself and toward its forced longevity. Instead, there is an intention to engage organic matter in transformative capacities. Anga Art Collective presented a well-researched and strikingly illustrated proposal that, when seen together with their recent projects, underscores a commitment to indigenous sovereignty connected to terrains they live and work within. Having pursued a communitarian mode with friendship as integral to evolving creative methods, their initiative is not only promising, but rather feels vital in an era of systemic collapse and social alienation. Thank you very much, and congratulations to Anga Art Collective.
So this is something what we felt about the proposal. It stood out as a very collective, inclusive, sustainable, and impactful practice in compared to all the proposals that came. And it had held a very clearly articulated notions of belonging to the world of rural ecosystems and cultures and ephemeral natures. And also the project very sensitively and intelligently framed a thoughtful concerns for human, animal, and natural system. Because they had in their drawings and sketches and proposals that included concerns for animals and just not the human. And it overall we felt that it is something belongs to the people, to the land. It is not an exhibitionist project. It was something really meant they are working for the people, place. So Anga's practice is also long in its duration, collective in terms of operation and outreach. It is institutional, pedagogically expansive, and sustainable for future generation. This is something which we felt that this is really encourages future generation. It's not just by artists doing something, but it is also like their practice is something very, very pedagogical, and it can influence or it can inspire younger people to do works like that, and also to give a grant to a project like this. It is really, we felt it's very, very important, and in a way, it is a collective movement for what they're practicing, but we also felt that we are also part of it. In some sense, the jury and the foundation becomes eventually a part of this program.
From the immense range of artistic proposals made for SSAF Installation Art Grant 2022, many of which took up daring and collaborative forms, Anga Art Collective's approach is remarkable for the way it encompasses decentralized modes of expression, delving into knowledge building, vernacular architecture, and eco-political confluences. Their focus anchors how agrarian practices, pedagogic resources, and living amidst non-human agents converge to shape aesthetic processes. It also generates a material provocation toward the role of installation art itself and towards its forced longevity. Instead, there is an intention to engage organic matter in transformative capacities. Anga Art Collective presented a well-researched and strikingly illustrated proposal that, when seen together with their recent project, underscores a commitment to indigenous sovereignty connected to terrains they live and work within. Having pursued a communitarian mode with friendship as integral to evolving creative methods, their initiative is not only promising, but rather feels vital in an era of systemic collapse and social alienation. Congratulations for this award. And also much respect for members of the jury of this year with me. It was a really wonderful process to work together and think together towards the selection this year.
A few members of the Anga Art Collective have joined us this evening. Dharmendra Prasad, who's in Hyderabad, Chandan Borgan from Guwahati, and Dhruwajit Sharma, Pallav Saika, Mayur Rajmonsi, Sanjeev Kalita, and Ankan Datta, who are in Dibrugarh. I'd request the members of the Anga Art Collective to please say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, here myself, Dharmendra Prasad. Like, it's a surprise. So I see this gesture of believing in our practice as an extension of trust and strengthening our belief in the collective forms and practices and in the paradigm of the individualism. As we locate ourselves in wounded histories, fractured geographies, intense oralities, contested forests, fragile life, and decaying ecological time. So the ecological time is intruded by industrial time, resulting in conflicts, climate catastrophe, bloodsheds, and suppression. Therefore, the collective for us is a tool to navigate in this complex landscape. It is also a tool to begin the counter narrative of thinking and imagining art practices, as well as to face the challenges of ethical deterioration in and outside of the studio space. Therefore, we would like to thank Jury member for extending this trust on this power of collective innocence, integrity, and long friendship. The collective unfolds through uncountable disagreements, debates, laughter, fun, mistakes, at the backdrop of certain vision and ideological positioning. For example, risk, informality, and friendship define our collective imaginations and actions. Sense of location, deterioration of collective forms in the community context, and uncertainty of life, which drives us to be collectively resilient and in this uncertain time. So thank you again to all the jury members and everyone for this. Now, like Chandan and Dhruva and other people can speak.
Yeah, hi everyone. Am I audible?
You're on.
Yeah. So hi everyone, and a big thanks to everyone like SSAF and the juries, of course, for recognizing our work and the proposal that we have shared. And like Raminda has said, like it is a very surprise moment for us, and like it's a big moment for us also. And we thank like as regarding the collective itself, Ramanda has almost said everything. I just want to add a little line or a little note that apart from the projects that we have been doing and the results that and the end results that come up with, one of our most prior thing is the very idea of working together itself, to work together and to think together and to kind of build a dialogue with the place and the people that we go and work in. So this very like and like our jury member in her speech also like have echoed these concerns of collective engagement rather than individual and alienated forms of practice. And while listening to her, I personally felt, and we also as a collective, kind of resonates with with her words and her thoughts that she had shared, and it feels very encouraging, like for us. And I just want to like we'd like to like take this grant also, like we since this very we have been working or like priority has been this uh, collective engagement, and we take this grant also as an affirmation of our belief in that collective spirit. So yeah, that's from me.
Thank you, everyone, and the jury member and Sher-Gil Foundation. So, Dharmendra has already mentioned and about like what we are thinking as a collective. So, adding to their note, we like want to say like in the context of Assam and Northeast India, like this collective is the only option for us. And without that collective, like we cannot work. The way we want to work, the collective is the only option. So, and we belong from a kind of community and society, which is like the society has already that collectiveness, and we like want to go like carry forward that in our practice, and that only can be like the practice only can be realized through the collective form and collective approaches. And thank you for believing in our practices, and this grant will help us to imagine and extend our projects and work.
No, I just want to like say thank you to Sher-Gil Sundaram Foundation and jury members, and yeah, and as Commander Chandan and Durva said, yeah, we are like we are doing collective. We believe in collective practices. Like though we are individual and the place we are coming from is a community. Like we come from a community life. We saw that in the village. We are all from the village. So we have talent. We want to work. And thank you all.
Many congratulations to the Anga Art Collective. I now invite Vivan Sundaram, the co-founder and managing trustee of the Sher-Gil Sundaram Arts Foundation, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, and this is a very memorable afternoon, evening. I can only say that I've been introduced to this Anga art collective by one member, Dharmendra Prasad, who I met at the 5 million projects at the Goethe Institute. And I wasn't going there that often because I was not well, but Geeta and I entered his wonderful, what shall we call it, beautiful, large structure made of informal material and glass. And he spoke so eloquently that that was something that I really remembered. In fact, I didn't know that something like the Anga Art Collective existed. I don't often look at biodatas, but I was very pleased to be able to talk to him briefly and to know about the project. I'd like to say that the installation art grant, has literally expanded. I mean, the last grantee, a very dynamic artist, metropolitan artist, decided to go to the prehistoric moment and in a very dynamic way unearthed, I'm using the word, that past in a very powerful expressionist sculpture and other forms and put it out in the Jahangir Nicholson Art Gallery. So that was really, let's say, art in the white cube. But there is a certain notion that installation art, has to actually not be an art that is in the art gallery. And if I can quote Anish Kapoor, who said that any installation art which can be moved from one place to the other is not installation art. He said installation art is really what is site specific. What's interesting here is that the site specificity of the Anga project, is more than the famous word or slogan called art in the or sculpture in the expanded field, which was proposed about 50 or 60 years ago. And here this expanded field is actually a collective, and that this collective works very strongly on the ground with materials. But what's fascinating is that the collective has organized itself uh, through thinking, through thought, and each one, I'm sure, has been growing extraordinary well, because today there is a strong relationship between making art and thinking art and maybe theorizing about it. And I think that the Anga Art Collective has been, the 12 members, I believe you are, have been, in fact, wonderful. 12 is a perfect class, if I can say. And you have been teaching each other, as often happens when you're in a postgraduate course, that you become actually the teachers, and the teachers are actually put to the side. So you as a collective are really in an extraordinary way growing and remarkable. I mean, I had no idea that you started in 2010 and you have not broken. I mean, I'm sure there have been problems, but the fact that you survived and you're so much of a presence through a very different dynamics. If I can just quickly we did a project in our thing about Majuli, about the area between Bangladesh and Assam, that river area, which just keeps on disappearing, Majuli. And there was water, everything was disappearing. And here, this project is about the land, about fragility, about the elephant, about a whole relationship, very much in a very special classroom thinking and going out of the class. And I'm sure that that your work will be recognized globally. And as you know, that the next documenta, in fact, I asked somebody, Latika Gupta, that has the award for the for the documenta, have they been selected by the famous Indonesian group? And she said yes. So, but I think that they are also a group that believes in a large amount of pedagogy, and that they would be very open. And I'm posing this question to Natasha, who's well connected and known to people in the documenta from her previous connection, that actually the word, it's not to network, but to show that in remote places, and not to romanticize it, that because you're actually not romanticizing your context, you're theorizing it and you're engaging in pedagogy. And it's just remarkable that your spirit and your thoughts will continue to grow. And if you feel that the Sher-Gil Sundaram Arts Foundation, in its second giving its second installation grant, will help you, then we are really pleased and honored that this special committee so unanimously selected you, and that you will go and continue to be in the forefront.